It's the big one. I've got to channel my inner James Allcott for this. England take on USA, and England are massive favourites. We've got to talk about the game fairly. USA took on Wales, put in a great shift for 60 minutes. Didn't go to plan because of Kiefer Moore and Gareth Bale. England turned up and beat Iran 6-2, which I don't think many of us predicted. I think we spoke about Iran's low block and holding England up and this, that and the other, and they rolled over. You come into this and you're probably thinking England are massive favourites. Are you pretty convinced that England beat USA?
Yeah, I am. I'm very convinced. You can accuse me of being gassed because England had such an incredible performance against Iran in the first game, and you can tell me that maybe it's just only Iran. But I've seen enough. And I've been converted into a believer. This England side have got incredible strength and depth. Mm-hmm. When you think about the players that were brought off that bench, it's mind-blowing. Phil Foden, a generational talent, is coming off the bench. And is happy to, by the way. There's no disharmony in the camp or Phil Foden thinking they're happy to come off the bench because they're all happy to be involved because this is a culture and environment that Gareth Southgate has fostered. And it's incredible to watch. Jack Grealish, £100 million man, coming off the bench. I respect USA. I like the players they've got. I don't like them as much as you do, but I like the pieces that they've got. They're a good team. But they're not England, and England should run out as comfortable winners in this one. If USA's only chance or only hope would maybe to be go ahead and maybe create a low block and make it difficult for England, or maybe if Harry Kane's not at full fitness, obviously he rolled his ankle, Southgate's come out and said he is going to play. But if Harry Kane is fit against Zimmerman and Tim Ream, what chance have they got, really?
Let's talk about where USA could potentially win this game. Because in midfield, they actually do have two players that have played in the Premier League before. They didn't actually start the last one. Harrison came on off the bench. But Musa was very impressive. I watched him and I thought, someone's signing him, 110%. Then Tyler Adams, who, of course, you spoke to recently, and Weston McKennie, and they could throw on Aronson, and they didn't need to use Gio Reyna. So you go into this game and you think, midfield-wise, I think they could mix it with England.
I'm so glad you said it, because someone needed to say it. It's not taken away from Jude Bellingham, who I think is a generational talent. I genuinely think, and I'll say it, hand on my heart, I think Jude Bellingham will be one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, at some point in his career. Declan Rice is another one I'm a massive, massive fan. Sometimes we can hyperbole British players, especially because we see them week in, week out. No, Declan Rice is the real deal. There's no two ways about it. He could play at the highest level across the whole of Europe if he wanted to. But there's this element of industry that the USA team is going to give. Over 90 minutes, I'm telling you, you spoke about it, those conditions. These guys are acclimatized. They want this. They want to outrun, outwork, and match their counterparts in an England shirt. And the only reason why is because for the longest while, no disrespect, the USA have been known as a little brother if we're talking about this relationship. How many opportunities they're going to get to turn around and go against England and arch themselves into history? History. USA winning the tournament is a dream, right? But we look at where we're going in 26, and all three of us, I'm going to put it out there, probably will be there in 26, right? But you look at what the moments you can create for your home nation back home. If you circled England, there ain't bigger moments than that, man.
Yeah, I do agree. They've got a solid and functioning midfield, but the words we're using are functioning and industry, and they haven't got the quality. And that's just what it is. They haven't got the quality that England have got comparatively to England.
Okay.
I'm not they've got the.
You saved yourself there.
Yeah.
I'm about to be like, we're about to go through this. McKinney, Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
you can turn around and say it. Like Tyler Adams is playing Premier League football.
But then in the second half, a midfield of Harry Wilson, Ethan Ampadu, and Aaron Ramsey, mix it with them.
Yeah, but you're talking about Ethan Ampadu is still a good midfielder. Aaron Ramsey has played for Juventus and Arsenal, and turned around, okay, we can say he's over the hill, but at some points he's been a top 3 player in the Premier League. And who else are you going to turn around and name from that world midfield?
I think
Harry Wilson.
Harry Wilson, that's a Premier League quality player.
There is an argument there that they couldn't quite mix it with Wales. I think the argument that you put forward is absolutely nailed on, that in terms of physicality, USA could win this in a physical battle to some extent. But then in terms of technical ability and quality, I mean, Jude Bellingham here, some of the stats are outrageous.
Generational.
113 touches, 92 successful passes, with a 95% successful accuracy rate. 7 out of 8 of his long balls were successful against Iran. He basically played like a box-to-box midfielder. There is a caveat to this that I want to throw out there. Do England play with a 4-3-3 going into this game? Or do they go... Because at some point, Southgate will go back to that back five. He's not going to take a chance because he'll know in the back of his mind, at some point we're going to take on someone in the knockouts, and that is going to be a very difficult game. And this is everything to do with Jude Bellingham having freedom. Jude Bellingham in a 6 next to Rice completely changes the picture.
It does. And he doesn't get the plaudits because he's not as maybe flashy. But Mason Mount is a big part of why that midfield works, because you've got Declan Rice shielding. I think he's better as box-to-box midfielder, but he can do that shielding role very, very well. Bellingham's got the freedom, and Rice has got Mason Mount's got the industry to buzz in and around and press and do the dirty work that people don't necessarily want to do. Southgate will flinch at some point, you are right. And when we play against one of the bigger nations, we will move to 3 at the back because he's conservative in his nature and it's served him well. I don't want to criticise him for it. Got to a World Cup semi-final before, got to the final of the Euros, and it served him well. I think against USA and against Wales in the remaining 2 group games, you have to stick with 4 at the back. It's worked well, and see what you've got. Say we go out, say England go out, and they go and they spank Wales and they spank USA playing 4 at the back. It gives them something to think about, and maybe we can go and impose our will, which as England fans we've wanted for years and years and years, for us to be the ones who are pressing on the pedal and pushing it and emphasising our will on the opponents. Maybe if we play 4 at the back and we get good results against USA and Wales, we might do it in the knockout stages. So I think we stick with 4 at the back for the rest of the group stage.
The only thing that I agree with you is that 100% Gareth Southgate at some point will go back to 5, and I think you will see 5 in one of the 2 remaining games that's left in the group, just because he's going to want to go and try the 5 and see it before he goes into a final eliminating game, in terms of a final 16, quarterfinal, semi-final, or even the final. He's going to want to try the 5, and the 5 has served him so well, and it's probably the most used formation right now, probably on trend in world football, because it gives you so much versatility between 3-4-3, or are you playing 2-5? It just gives you so much you can turn around and do and adapt on the pitch. I think you're guaranteed to see that 5 at some point. I don't personally think it will be in the USA game. I think he'll play 4-3-3 in the USA game, because he'll know the USA's threat is in behind, and he'll want to impose and push Pulisic down one wing and Timothy Weah down the other, going the opposite way, helping their fullbacks. How you do that is you create overloads on the outside. By doing a 5, you're almost asking, let's say Raheem and Marcus Rashford start. You're going to ask them to tuck in so they can help Harry Kane. It's going to then leave a lot of space potentially for those wingers to turn around and get in behind, because you're asking your wing backs to push on. I think by going by 3, you have a definitive overload, and it's man v man, if that makes any sense. And by doing it that way, you're almost guaranteed that it's just going to come down to who's better on the day. And as you say, if you hedge your betches, then England should win, right?
I think we should talk about Christian Pulisic, because a lot of what USA did going forward goes through him, because the ball goes into him. And to be fair, he's another player that when he goes on international duty, he loves the responsibility. He was picking the ball up, he was taking 2 or 3 players on, winning fouls, winning free kicks, and you could tell USA want that. They want set pieces. Another angle to this game is England love set pieces as well. Christian Pulisic versus Trippier could be a very interesting battle, because we haven't really seen Trippier exposed to, especially didn't see it against Iran. Iran practically didn't even play with a left winger. But with Pulisic having the ability to come inside and outside, I feel Trippier's going to have something very interesting to deal with.
Definitely, he's going to have things to think about. And when I talk to my friends who are Newcastle fans, like, Kieran Trippier's amazing, incredible signing. But also, he's fallen in love with going forward.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily love to defend anymore. He wasn't really challenged in that sense against Iran. He will be challenged in that sense against USA. I think he's got enough in the locker and enough experience. He's played under Simeone, who's an incredible defensive coach. I think he's got, when he's forced to defend, I think he'll be able to do it, and he'll be up to scratch with doing it.
I think what you just said there about the impact that Simeone has had on Kieran Trippier, you can just see, you know when they say sometimes players can't learn new tricks or adapt their game as they get older? I think you've seen living proof that Kieran Trippier has left the Premier League one type of defender and came back a completely different, especially one-on-one defender.
He's just tougher, isn't he?
He's just more physical.
Let things go past him.
And he loves and he enjoys the battle. As you say, obviously with Newcastle, the way they're flying right now, you're more seeing what he's doing going forward in terms of set pieces, delivery, everything else. But I wouldn't take away the experience that he had at Atleti, and especially now being in a 4. I think that's why you're seeing the responsibility of being the captain, all the rest of it. That necessarily wasn't particularly the player that left here, the Premier League back then, but he's enjoying the responsibility of being one of the senior players and enjoys the battle. So I think you almost say to Gareth, look, give me that battle. I've got Christian Pulisic. I'm going to put him in my pocket and I'm going to turn around and go forward and dominate the game in the final third for us.
That'll be a very interesting battle. Further up the pitch for England, Harry Kane may be fit, may not be fit. Let's just say, for example, he's not fit. Wilson came on, got an assist. Rashford came on, scored. I do want to add the caveat, because people are sat at home. It was Iran. We are completely aware. We're not getting overexcited. But if you had to pick a player to play through the middle that wasn't Harry Kane for this USA game, who would you go for?
Callum Wilson, arguably the most informed striker. He can make an argument, say he's the most informed striker in Europe right now. Before we got into the competition, then I'm saying he's got an argument. I mean, Erling Haaland would turn and be waving his hands right now and be like, "Excuse me, have you forgotten about me?" And I said made an argument because in Callum Wilson's head, as far as he's concerned, every time he's performed for England, every time he's played, his ratio is very good. For Newcastle, is exactly the same. The only question mark we had around Callum Wilson was fitness. This is the most sustained level of not worrying about hamstrings or quads or groins. I've seen Callum Wilson. He looks very free at this moment in time, muscular-wise. Whatever he's done to change, whether that's diet or looking after his body to get himself ready for this World Cup, he's in probably the best shape of his life. Yeah. And I would think you give that man that much confidence, that much ethos, and turn around and say you have now the opportunity to lead the line for England, he's going to grab it with both hands.
100%. And what I do love about Callum Wilson, because I agree with Jaydee, I would start Callum Wilson if Harry Kane wasn't fit, is that when we saw him at Bournemouth when he first burst onto the scene, playing again under Eddie Howe, I think he's benefited from playing under the same manager for the bulk of his career. We saw a player who was on the shoulder, in behind, quick and a decent finisher. He's a completely different number 9 now. He's bulkier. He's more of a, I wouldn't say a target man, but he lets his presence be known.
You can play into him.
You can play it into him, and he's got that ability to be almost like a backboard, and players can play off of him. And the fact that he's been so successful being 2 different types of strikers tells me about his quality. And that goal, the assist for Jack Grealish, where it was like a 35 pass move, and he just cuts it back to Grealish, that impressed me more than if he had banged it and he tried to score, because he's on the world stage. Of course, he would love to score a goal at the World Cup, but he had the wherewithal to be like, no, I'm going to cut it back and we're going to score our 6th goal. And I love that, and you saw that quality. So if Harry Kane wasn't to be fit, I think he's the perfect man to deputise because he's got so much confidence and quality.
All right, time to very quickly put our next on the line. Scoreline prediction, I will go first. I think it's going to be 1-1. Jaydee?
A man that read my mind. I've been saying it. There's something very unique about this USA team, so I'm also going to go for a score 1-1.
3-1 England.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.